And tonight on Top Story, policeman shot and killed during a robbery incident at Ablekuma. We'll get you the latest. Also tonight,
I think that government should pull the brakes, do further consultation so that we can together fashion a way of dealing with TOR.
and as opinions remain divided on the proposed oil refinery 6-year lease agreement with a private company, Torrentco, it is emerging that the Public Procurement Authority (PPA) rejected TOR's request for a single-sourced arrangement for the deal. Details of the PPA's directive plus we hear from the sector minister as he assures transparency and diligence in the deal.
The proposals lying down in TOR. The Attorney General is having a look, SIGA is having a look, Finance Ministry. Because you're saying journalists will come and say, government has sold TOR to its cronies if we don't get it right. We'll work diligently to give Ghanaians what is good.
But tonight there's a lot more in the energy sector, with the Independent Power Producers IPPs officially notifying the Finance Ministry about its threat to cut power supply by June 30. My name is Blaise Soga, and Top Story, as always, is brought to you by Vodafone Further Together. We'll start off with the report we're receiving that the police officer has been shot and killed during a robbery incident at Ablekuma. My colleague Richard Kojinyako has a copy of a statement released by the police service on this incident, joins us in studio with details on this. Richard, what are the highlights of the statement?
Well, Blessed, the police indicate that they are on a manhunt to arrest a gang of 4 robbers who attacked a bullion van at Ablekuma Fanmilk, a suburb of Accra, and shot the police escort, who has unfortunately passed on. They continue by saying that their prayers and thoughts are with the family of the deceased colleague in particular and all personnel of the police service in general. They end by assuring the public that they will surely get the robbers arrested to face justice.
Unfortunate day indeed for that service person. Are we getting any further details on what's next for the Ghana Police Service?
Well, so this is the only statement they have put out, and they conclude that they are investigating the matter and they will brief the public adequately. I
expect Joy News to bring you updates as and when we have them. But the focus for tonight, as opinions and strong views remain divided on the proposed Tema Oil Refinery 6-year lease agreement with a private company, Torrentco. It is emerging that the Public Procurement Authority (PPA) rejected the Tema Oil Refinery's request for a single-sourced arrangement for that deal. The Public Procurement Authority further directed the Tema Oil Refinery to refer the PPP committee of the Ministry of Finance for consideration pursuant to what it is that the Public-Private Partnership Act of 2020 dictates. Let's get more from our presidential correspondent, Elton Brobe, who has details on this very arrangement, plus what we're learning from the Public Procurement Authority, including this latest directive from the PPA as well, and the response from the sector minister. Here's what you need to know, that government for now is planning to lease Tema Oil Refinery to this private company, Torrentco, as we understand. And as part of the process, we know that it will happen between a 6-year period, which will be a lease. But why is the PPA rejecting Tema Oil Refinery's agreement to take a single-sourced approach? That's what I need, of course, further clarity from my colleague Elton Brobe, who's our presidential correspondent, getting some details coming through to our desk now. Elton, what do we know? Because you've been studying the PPA's response to the request for a single-source procurement to engage a strategic partner for the Tema Oil Refinery lease transaction. So just tell us more about what this document is saying and why PPA is of this view.
So Blessed, the information we have, the document...
Elton, are you still with us?
Hello, Blessed.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, so I was talking about the information that we have, and this is a letter that was written to the PPA by the managing director of the Tema Oil Refinery, Jerry Kofi Henson. And the letter he wrote to PPA requested to adopt single source procurement to engage strategic partner for the Tema Oil Refinery. And the response from the PPA dated 15 June 2023 says, we refer to your letter, and the reference is quoted here, and earlier correspondence on the subject above. That is the request by TOR to adopt single source procurement to engage a partner for the refinery. Now, the board sat on this matter and came to a decision on the 15th of June. And the response to the request said the PPA board considered the following full complements of documents submitted by the TOR, that Tema Oil Refinery, in explanation, clarification, and support of the request. Now, the TOR made certain demands, and the supporting documents included composition of the SPV, corporate profile of Terenco Asset Management, draft lease agreement dated 22nd 2022 between TOR and Terenco Asset Management Limited, and due diligence report, public record review of the proposed transaction to lease certain assets of TOR to Terenco Asset Management Limited. Also, a revised request via letter, and the reference again is quoted, forwarding the following outline of the three principal partners that would partner Terenco. Terenco principal resume, Terenco principal stakeholders presentation, company profile of select members of the consortium, draft lease agreement, initiated processing agreement with Pontus. A lot of explanation is attached to this. Also, Terenco agreement and business plan, letter of ownership of crude oil, the TOR off-taker letter. Now, the response from the board of the PPA says that they found the request that seeks to enter into the lease agreement with Terenco Asset Management Limited and its partners will enable TOR set up to start a refining process, which is actually a core mandate of TOR, and help restore TOR to profitability. It is proposed under the partnership agreement between TOR and Terenco that TOR shall lease to Terenco all of its assets, excluding its laboratory, residual fluid catalytic cracker, rights of way, throughput and tie-in, shares and dividends. Now, PPS says that upon careful consideration of the above documents and engagement with TOR, they came to the conclusion that the request be referred to the Public-Private Partnership Committee of the Ministry of Finance for consideration pursuant to the Public-Private Partnership Act 2020 at 1093. The Act applies to, among others, public sector projects undertaken in the form of a partnership arrangement between a contracting authority and private party. And it goes on to also explain the operations and maintenance arrangement as defined under the schedule in the Act. And their final position, again, makes reference to the fact that they may not be able to grant the sole source request that TOR had put in, but referred TOR again to the Ministry of Finance, private-public arrangement that has a law backing it. And this is signed by Frank Mante, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Public Procurement Authority, addressed to Jerry Kofi Henson, Managing Director of TOR.
And that's presidential correspondent Elton Brobe giving us a detailed account of why the public procurement authorities of the view that a single source procurement may not be the best in finding a partner for the Tema Oil Refinery. Well, the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Poko-Prempeh, has been wading into all of that, says the government is fully committed to transparency and diligence in the Tema Oil Refinery's proposed 6-year lease agreement with a private company, Terenco, ascending to revamp the facility. Some civil society organizations have in the last few weeks raised concerns about the deal, which will see some of TOR's key assets handed the company to enable it to refine up to 8 million barrels of oil per year. Vice President of Imani Africa, Bright Simmons, says the transaction will not solve the refinery's current challenges.
Trying to remedy is basically to restart the refinery, because the refinery has not been producing since sometime around March 2021. Imani's position is that the transaction will not solve the problems of the Tema oil refinery.
Why?
And for that, we need to first start off with what are the problems, right?
Yeah.
And then we can conclude that it doesn't work. So the problems are primarily threefold. The first problem is that the refinery often doesn't have working capital to import crude, refine it, sell it, and pay back in good time.
Okay.
If the creditors give it credit, it's because of the previous challenge that it had, and it has to keep servicing debt and the rest of it. It keeps making losses, which keeps accumulating. The second problem is that the equipment are not in the most pristine state. So that also means that productivity is not very high. And the third problem is that for a long time, politicians keep packing the board and the management with their favorites. That's made it very difficult to make strategic decisions that are sensible, rational, in the best interest of the company. So those are the three key problems. Now, our challenge with this deal is that it doesn't solve any of the three problems well, and it will worsen these problems.
Well, he's also been questioning the capacity of Torrent Co.
More important than not, a lot of the strength of this consortium, a lot of the appeal of this consortium lies in the fact that they claim TOR, which is a globally renowned commodity trading company, will give them the crude oil. But the documents that we've reviewed suggest that TOR is not going to give them this because TOR has not made any commitment to oil. It's made it very clear that it's only expressed an interest to have conversations if the company is granted the lease. So there is really nothing concrete as to where they will get the crude oil to refine, where they will get the money to maintain the factory, and where is the technical capacity to revamp the refinery. So that's our number one problem.
Well, it's not just the Vice President of Imani Africa, Bright Simmons, that has an issue with this whole arrangement. The ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, John Jinapor, is also wading in. He wants the transaction, the entire transaction, to be put on hold.
If you do the analysis, you're simply not going to make any progress. Even more is the fact that they took this agreement to the Public Procurement Authority for approval, knowing that there is a Public-Private Partnership Act which stipulates that you must go to the Ministry of Finance and meet the PPA committee for an assessment before going to Public Procurement Authority. So if the Public Procurement Authority had not restricted them, you'd have had a major problem. And if you read the PPA letter, it does appear that there are several sub agreements. So I think that government should pull the brakes, do further consultation, consult stakeholders, i.e. members of parliament, industry players, civil societies such as Imani and SF and all those people, so that we can together fashion a way of dealing with TOR. You cannot deal with TOR's problem in a firefighting approach. It will not work.
And that's the ranking on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, John Jinapor. It appears an earlier warning was sounded by the Petroleum Union Staff Association, who say their call for management to pull the brakes on the entire deal have been ignored. Anthony Kumson is chairperson of the Petroleum Union Staff Association.
As workers, we asked for requisite information to understand the transaction that was ongoing. We're given the lease agreement, we perused it, we saw all the inconsistencies and the misrepresentations in it. We drew management attention to it, we drew board attention to it, and we only blacklisted and blackmailed. As we speak now, the refinery has two other options on its table. It has legacy capital that has come to survey the plant, have discussion with management, done presentation. Then we have Falcon American Oil that has done sales. Last week, the entire week, Falcon was with the refinery. Did the presentation, engage all staff, tour the plant, and they are yet to bring their proposal.
We know that the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, in an earlier interview with the media, explained that the rationale behind this very deal and assured government will negotiate the best deal for the country. My colleague James Kwesi is joining us. He was with the team when the minister spoke. And James, take us back to the day when he hinted about this very deal and how the issue about TOR came up. What was the response from the minister?
Okay, blessed. So on the 20th of June, when the minister joined the ECG team on their revenue mobilization exercise, that issue came up. In fact, he said that he had earlier presented a business opportunity to TOR to take up condensates that actually come from the power producing companies and turn this condensate into premix fuel. And so he thought that work would have in some way or the other get TOR occupied while they work around the clock in order to get money to revamp TOR actually. And so he gave them that opportunity. The first batch of condensate that was sent to TOR at the time was worth some 2.5 million US dollars. But at the end of the day, when he asked about that, the response he got was that not even $1 worth of condensate was found, which means that the $2.5 million condensate that was sent to TOR got missing. And so it was on the 20th of June that he gave this assurance.
But then he's been giving an assurance about the deal itself and its essence to revamping TOR.
Exactly. So it was on the back of this condensate getting missing that he said, look, he's not giving up. He's already put together some new deal to give to TOR, but he's consulting some stakeholders to make sure that this deal goes through due diligence so that at the end of the day it achieves the purpose for which he's sending it there to make TOR work again. We can listen to him make the point.
It's easy to always say there's a sector minister, and as soon as the minister does something, the minister is interfering. We all have to decide as a country what we want. We live under the type of system that we want. I can tell you as a minister what I've done. They have over $500 million of debt sitting on there, and go and look at how the debt's accumulated. People bring their crude to refine, and then crude losses. I set up a committee that worked for 8 months just trying to reconcile TOR losses. You don't pay taxes for it to be a drain. You pay taxes for an efficient function of government. Government, I can tell you, is doing so much work to bring TOR together. As we speak, there are proposals lying down in TOR. The Attorney General is having a look, SIGA is having a look, Finance Ministry. Because you're saying journalists will come and say, government has sold TOR to his cronies if we don't get it right. And getting it right is a difficult proposition that you are putting out. And we'll work diligently to give Ghanaians what is good. Sure. So if TOR is come to work, it has to come with the efficiencies for which it can allow to participate in the market. We are not going to say TOR because TOR is TOR. TOR will bring in petrol products that me and you cannot buy. You will turn around and tell, the old system was better, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll work to get it right.
And it's a good time to hear from Jojo Kumse, who's the chairperson of the General Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Works Union. Of course, we're also being joined by Edward Barr, who's on the side of the minority. He also works closely with John Jinapon, the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament. Thank you, gentlemen, for spending some time with us. Let me start off with you, Mr. Kumse, because you work in the sector, and we've heard from, for instance, other unions, those who work at TOR, particularly the senior staff members, who say that this deal is the best way out for TOR in terms of revamping the assets. What view do you hold collectively as Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union?
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your listening. We actually are very open to any credible partner with enough capacity to help revamp TOR, and that's our general position. We are prepared to examine all the due diligence, every report, every documentation that pertains to whoever the partner may be, and assist management to make sure that we have a credible partner on table, where we will not run in a short while and come back to begin to tell Ghanaians another story. No. So this is our position. We have always wanted the right things for the refinery, and this is all that we will push for.
But then we know that there's an assurance coming through from the government itself, particularly the energy minister, indicating that, well, it's the best way out. Should we not take that and believe that that's enough?
I listened to the voice audio you played about him from the minister. Frankly speaking, could they have said the same thing for ECG PDS scandal? It went through all this. So we, as much as we are concerned, we respect the position of the energy ministry, but we want to sound the caution per the documentations we have seen, and we hope that they will all pay keen attention to the things that are happening at TOR and make sure that the best deal is given to the refinery. That's our position.
But then, Jojo, just hold on for us. Let's hear from Edward Barr as well, who's also on with us. And earlier we heard from John Jinapo, your colleague on the committee. You have a raft of concerns. In fact, you want the whole deal to be put on hold based on some transparency issues. But you also agree that government is in dire need of a plan to revamp TOR. It's been part of the president's broad agenda. So how do we make that work without, freezing this deal?
Yeah, good evening, Evans. But first and foremost, let me state very clearly that I don't think that the minority is against bringing in a private partner to work with TOR. That being said, we also do know very clearly that since 2021 thereabout, the TOR has not been operational. So if government is attempting to bring the private sector into play in this particular scenario, our first question we want to ask is that before inviting the private sector to come, has there been any audit, technical and financial audit of the whole sector, the plant? Has there been that audit? What were the findings? What were the recommendations? It is based on the findings and recommendations that government then will be armed to know what type of private partner that will be seeking. So that we do not know. If it has been done, what is the report? What is the recommendation? That's the first thing. Two, over the period, we have also been aware as a committee that there have been private sector players who have expressed interest in partaking in the TOR story. The question then is that what is the motivation for government to have selected a company that was just formed in January 2023 on the basis of just sole sourcing to take up this? The question you will ask on this particular company is that, does it have the financial and then technical capability to be able to to do what they say they can do? Two, do they even have the appropriate licenses to be able to even operate within the downstream sector? Three, do they have qualified technical or maybe financial partners who can really work on the proposals they've given in the agreement that they have made? And one of the issues that we have come to realize very carefully is the fact that if you listen to what Evan by Simon talks about in terms of the profit margins, depending on what happens, the question is how transparent is the profit sharing? We do not know all this. So you see that there's a big problem in terms of transparency. And if you read what the government proposes in terms of the agreement and what they think, the intent of this particular agreement, they are talking of the fact that they want to ensure that TOR becomes profitable. But in the same agreement, they are indicating that the lessee, that is TAML, will only concentrate on the CDU. The question then is that how viable is this particular, just operating just the CDU? How viable was the economic viability of just operating the CDU? Particularly when you are not going to add the RFCC. And if you ask the colleague who is there, who is working in the sector, he will tell you that you need both units to really make that particular, asset become a bit more profitable. So we have all these challenges that we think that have not been very transparent. But I'm happy that at least one state institution has worked and has done something very well in making us follow the laws. And I think that's what John Jinapo spoke about. The fact that the PPA, that's the Public Procurement Authority, has asked the TOR board to refer the transaction to the Public-Private Partnership, committee of the Ministry of Finance, as per the Act 1039, to scrutinize the deal. Because we all want TOR to work, but at the same time, we do not want one to be short-tailed. Two, would not want a situation where people just come and don't know exactly what they are doing. And we'll come back to, just as my colleague on the other side says, that will go into the PDS scandal. That is something that we can do.
Here's what we need to do. Edward Barr, blessed here, by the way. Let's look for solutions, the alternative. Let me start off with you, Jojo Kumsin. Aside this deal, is there a way out really for TOR?
Yes. You see, the way out for TOR is public-private partnership. Let the process be transparent. Open it up for other participants to tender in their bid. And then we have an objective and transparent means of assessing all these partners. And the credible one that passes the test is made to align with the tomorrow refinery so that it can operate.
And for you, Edward, is it not much more about capital as compared to who is investing into TOR?
We've done it before with a public entity. We did it with GOIL. GOIL was a public entity. And what we did is the government decided to hold on into a minority shareholding structure, editing, and then invite private sector to invest. And that is why GOIL has become one of the most viable oil marketing companies in this country. And so we have an example to emulate. So if we can follow the GOIL approach and make everything look transparent, and with the GOIL one, because it is also listed in the stock exchange, every bit of their processes is transparent and everybody can see and know that if I'm investing in a city, I know what type of returns I get. So we have an example to emulate, and GOIL is there for us to emulate.
Grateful, gentlemen, to Jojo Kumsin, chairperson of the General Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union, and also to Edward Barr, member of the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament. And that's it for Top Story. News Night is next. We understand tonight that the IPPs have officially notified the Finance Ministry about its threat to cut power supply by June 30. Will Doomsaw return? That's the big question we're answering on News Night. Please stay.